Welcome back to Boring Reviews.
Boring land.
Oh, just kidding.
Blasphemer!
All
Hello,
right.
Boring Review Nation!
Kind of pointless.
We know all things. Hello, CFA Nation! Gabe.
Nick.
And we are here today, once again, bringing you another Patreon request. Super excited to do this. Nick, tell the people what we're going to be reviewing.
So this Patreon request here, not all of them want us to say who they are. They like to be a secret admirer, so to speak. No, I'm just kidding. But they just want to be anonymous. So here's another one of those. But we are excited for this one. Obviously, this is a Patreon request that's all about cricket. It says to please kindly react to this 2-part documentary on India World Cup win. It is actually a single 50-minute documentary, but divided into 2 parts. And he says there should not be any copyright issues, which is why we're going to include the video of this documentary. So we're going to do part 1 today, World Cup. So we had test format for bazillions of years, right? That's hyperbole, but for a long time. And they decided we want to do some kind of World Cup situation. So let's bring it down to 50 overs to ODI format. I believe the first year was 1975. And let's do a World Cup that way. West Indies won the first 2, and then India won the third one in 83. So this is a documentary, spoiler alert, for that World Cup in 1983. Got the India hat to show support. And Gabe's got the West Indies hat because they're the first 2 champs in ODI format. There you go. For the World Cup. Hey, you got to give respect to the originators, man. I mean, in every sport, when you're learning about a sport, you've got to learn who are the godfathers, who are the first one to show up. Right. I hate to say it, but in baseball, it was the Yankees. But in other sports, it's other teams. In this one, West Indies, baby.
One of the things that it's important, a lot of our fans and a lot of our subscribers have talked about how, across the board, India now is the biggest cricketing nation and the biggest source of revenue for cricket, and how in other parts of the world, even though cricket's an international sport, cricket's really dying. You know what I mean? Sometimes you hear the announcers, exaggerate and they'll be like, oh, the day cricket died in England. You know what I'm saying? It hasn't died in England, but it has been overtaken by football. Football is now the biggest sport in England, but in India, cricket reigns supreme, and they've got T20, they've got the IPL. They've done so much for the sport, which is funny because again, the name of the name of this video is how India transformed cricket.
Yeah, so this is on YouTube. You can check it out on your own as well. Super excited to get into it. There are some players that I mentioned on my basic overview that I don't really know too much about, and we're going to see here. But, I mean, you talked about the day that cricket died. I makes me think about the origination of the Ashes, right? But let's go ahead and jump into this. 25 minutes, 19 seconds. We hope you want to join us for the entire time. In 3, 2, 1.
And that's out. Yes, it's all over this time.
Well, I forgot to mention, India beat the West Indies in that third World Cup, so they went to 3 in a row.
It's 1983, and the West Indies have just lost a World Cup final for the first time. The shock result has shattered the serenity of world.
That says it all right there.
One of the greatest upsets of so many years, but how thoroughly well deserved it's been.
Wow, look at that field.
The story of a tournament that transformed a team.
I think believe was the only thing was different between Indian team and the West Indies team, and that somehow, somewhere we start believing.
A tournament that transformed a sport.
It's a $1 billion game, isn't it now? It's a very different sort of game.
Wow.
And I guess 83 was pretty much a starting point for that.
A tournament that transformed a nation.
Except for India's independence, I can't remember anything which brought so much of joy.
Yeah, I was going to say, you can't quantify the impact something like that would have on a nation.
What game of cricket meant to this country.
To create the cricket fever, so to speak. That's cool.
Contemporary India is a land of contrasts. A land of 1 billion people and myriad languages. A land where extremes of poverty and wealth sit side by side. A land divided over politics and religion. But uniting the nation is the love for one game.
So cool.
From Mumbai to Mohali, Kolkata to Karnataka, Indians can be found playing cricket from dawn till dusk.
Get with those stumps.
And now, cricket in India has hit the jackpot. The Indian Premier League, a 2020 tournament, has attracted big names and big money. Cricket has become a heady cocktail of sport and entertainment.
And look at that, Shah Rukh
The
Khan
English
owns
may have
that team.
invented the game, and the Australians largely dominated it. But as the next generation come through, India is now cricket's financial heart.
There you go, that's what you said.
Yet there was a time when it was far from the centre of the sport.
His Majesty the King at Lord's, where he greets the All India 11 during their only test match to be played this year.
The English brought cricket to India in the 18th century, and though it grew in popularity among the elite, it was only with their test debut against England in 1932 that they emerged as a cricketing nation in their own right. They lost that match, and their record at Lord's would not get better with time. By 1983, this ground had hosted India 10 times.
Must be close, yes, indeed.
Their record read no wins, 2 draws, 8.
Jeez.
Oh, ball in. Good delivery.
The home of cricket had become a cremation ground for Indian fortunes.
And that's it. No question about that.
Their catalogue of calamities was compounded in 1974 by the ignominy of being bowled out in just 77
Wow.
minutes.
Oh. Dude, you gotta love all that hair, man. Look at that.
Whoa, whoa,
Both
whoa.
sides,
Calm down
all
with the
that
hair.
I know, I'm jealous.
Forever in a test match.
But by the 70s, the sport was changing. One-day cricket had established itself, and in 1975, the insurance company Prudential backed the inaugural World Cup, which brought the best teams in the world to England to compete head-to-head for the first time. With each side playing just 60 overs, matches could be wrapped up in a day
60.
with a winner as good as guaranteed. But as the rest of the cricketing world awoke to the possibilities of limited overs cricket, India seemed to be left asleep. In the first tournament, they were pummeled by England. With Dennis Amos making a century, the home side posted a record 334 for 4, eclipsing the Indians by a mammoth 202 runs.
Oh my gosh.
A great blow there by Crusoe, not even bothering to run.
After 60 overs, incredibly, the Indians had managed to total only 132 runs and only lost 3 wickets in doing it. Well, it was a disappointing day for many of the Indian spectators who were here. They repeatedly came onto the field and personally remonstrated with Gavaskar, but the Indians fell down exceedingly badly on the job.
Talk about run rate.
Prudential Cup in '79, and it was business as usual for the West Indies as they successfully retained the title.
Ooh, look at my man.
Boys.
But it was disappointment
Good
as
team.
usual for India. They were taken apart by the defending champions and would go on to lose all 3 of their matches, including defeat at the hands of Sri Lanka, who were not even a test-playing nation. By 1983, India had registered just 1 win in the World Cup against inexperienced East Africa. Of the 40 one-day internationals they had played altogether, they had lost 28.
Jeez.
Expectations surrounding them were understandably unoptimistic.
No doubt. Hey, you get your wins when you can, my
But in
friend.
March 1983, almost unnoticed, something unexpected happened. An Indian team under new captain Kapil Dev travelled to the Caribbean and inflicted a rare home defeat on the West Indies in a one-day match in Guyana.
Nice.
They were the champion of one-day side and they played brilliant cricket in one day. But that win gave us that yes, we can beat them. And I think that was the turning point in our confidence as far as one-day game is concerned.
True to form, India failed to win another match in the series. But that victory had taught them a small yet significant lesson.
Whatever we remember about West Indies during that period and previously, they're a great team, but they only crack is under pressure. Otherwise, they are the best without any doubt.
Gotta find that weakness.
6 weeks after completing their tour of the Caribbean, the Indian team touched down in London. It was the third World Cup, and once more, England would host the world's top 8 teams. For the tournament, these teams would be divided into 2 groups of 4. They would play each other twice, with the top 2 going through to the semi-finals. The West Indies were favourites to retain their title, and according to perceived wisdom, it would be Pakistan, Australia and England joining them in the semis. India's previous poor form made them 66-1 outsiders.
Whew.
But in just
call it
over
Cinderella
2
story.
weeks, that established world order would show signs of cracking. In the north of England stands Manchester's Old Trafford Stadium, home of Lancashire County Cricket Club. Known equally for the quality of its cricketers as the unpredictability of its weather, it would host
We know
the
that.
first match. And as luck
Every
would have
test match it gets a rain.
their opponents were once again the West Indies.
We had played the best side for quite some time before the World Cup, and we were better prepared than any other side as such.
Put into bat on a damp pitch, India had Yashpal Sharma to thank, as his splendid 89 helped them to 262 for 8.
There you go, that's much better.
Then the Indian bowlers got to work.
It was cloudy, it was muggy, and the ball started to swing around. It just kept swinging because initially I found it difficult to control the ball, but then when I got my line together, I found it so easy, and we had them in trouble straight away.
Binny captured 3 wickets, and left-arm spinner Ravi Shastri mopped up the tail as the West Indies crumbled to 228. It was a major upset, the repercussions of which would be felt all the way to the final.
Losing that very first game was a bit of a shock, but at the same time, it woke us up a bit because we needed to come out of our complacency and to realize that, listen, this is a World Cup, this is a one-day tournament, which on any particular day, a team can turn up, play better than you have been playing, whether you're the best team in the world or not, and you will get beat. And that sort of woke us up a bit.
I think beating West Indies was really, morale boosting for the team as such, because then we thought, fine, we have won against the world champions, we have won against the strongest side, so there is a possibility then we can do a miracle in the World Cup.
A win against Zimbabwe in their second game kept that possibility alive, but they were cut to size in their next match by Australia.
Good shot.
It was a reality check for India as Trevor Chappell's century helped the Australians home by 162 runs.
Jeez.
The Oval was the scene of India's next fixture. This time, a resurgent West Indies avenged their opening day defeat. With 4 matches gone, India sat third in the table, knowing that only 2 straight wins would do.
Gosh. 2 wins, 2 losses. You can't be feeling too great about that.
Tunbridge Wells is an unlikely setting for a slice of cricketing history. But in 1983, this sleepy ground in the south of England played host to one of the most memorable matches in one-day cricket. It was a match that would bear witness to a remarkable individual performance and signal a change
Some
in
more
India's
rain?
fortunes.
I think it was definitely a turnaround, and all thanks to Kapil. I think he led the way for the Indian side because the way he batted, the way he handled that pressure in that particular game.
On a moist pitch, the ball swung and seamed appreciably, and India couldn't cope.
So Karan from the commentary box end to Shrikant, and he puts it up in the air, and there's Butchart underneath, and he takes a very, very good catch indeed. I thought he was going to...
Did you hear that, Gabe? A catch.
Walk in, and that's a good ball. And is he caught? He is. He
Catches
does.
win matches.
That glorious off cutter, and Amanat doesn't like it one little bit.
After 13 overs, India were 17 for 5.
Wow.
Oh,
We were
man.
very disappointed, and so we just stayed back in the basement of the dressing room, and we didn't feel like coming up. And the secondly, we thought we were not expecting to fail against a team like Zimbabwe because we had won against them quite easily. And then when we got the news sitting down in the dressing room that, okay, now the runs are coming, Kapil is batting beautifully, scoring runs set as well. And so we started coming up and started watching the game.
What they would witness was one of the greatest innings in World Cup history.
Kapil had come in, I think, at number 7. And he hadn't played a shot.
Number 7.
He just looked like he was determined to try and bat and get a score for India. He was just absolutely amazing. He never mishit the ball. We never dropped him. He never gave us a chance. Anything that went in the air generally went out the ground.
Wow.
As Rawson comes in to Kapil Dev, who has 99. This one nudged out in the offside. They go through for the single. And he's got it. And there's going to be applause from all the Zimbabwe players. In comes Fletcher, loping in from the far end. The bowler Kapil Dev, he gets a full toss, points into mid-on, and that's 172, and it is a record for the Prudential World Cup.
Kapil reached 175 not out and
Wow.
took the team to an unthinkable 266.
They're starting off
It was
17
an
and
inspiring
5.
innings that clinched the match by 31 runs.
That's a captain right there.
I think in every cricketers, when you play almost 15, 20 years, some of the days come out, it's your days, manufactured by God given to you, and this is whatever you do, it's nothing can go wrong. Perhaps that inning was like that.
Humble.
I think then there was no stopping after that. Even in a game against Australia, probably we were all charged up. We knew that we could beat any side.
They now went into their final match against Australia, knowing that whoever was victorious would make it to the semi-final.
We were confident at that point of time, and we were also tense because that's a situation where it's a give and take. You either stay in the tournament.
Bro, talk about the.
Fired up, Binney starred with 4 wickets as India brushed aside Australia by 118 runs to storm into the last 4.
Jeez.
Their opponents would be a team India had never beaten in a one-day match on English soil.
England. Oh, the drama.
Bro, talk about the bracket of death, right? Like in soccer.
Yeah.
In the
You gotta get through
1983
Australia
World Cup,
and West
India's
Indies.
cricketers were confounding the critics. They had been drawn in a group with the West Indies and Australia, and all but their staunchest supporters expected them to make an early exit. Now they stood in the semi-finals for the first time in their history.
I think once we were through to the semis, we were all thrilled. So I think the first thought came in our mind, if look, this is the 3rd World Cup we were playing. We failed miserably in the first 2. Now we have reached the semis. So let's enjoy the semi-final first.
Though the semi-final was a new experience for India, this was not entirely a team of novices. The majority of their 14-strong squad had yet to carve their place in history, but the Indians could call on 2 players of world renown. Sunil Gavaskar boasted a talent that transcended his team's test record. His stroke play and technique had bewitched spectators for a dozen years, and though he was less consistent in the shorter version of the game, his prodigious talents were too great to overlook. Until the start of 1983, Gavaskar had been captain, but that role had now passed to a 24-year-old, Kapil Dev. Already the youngest player to have reached 1,000 runs and 100 wickets in test matches, a feat he achieved aged just 21, the all-rounder's talent on the pitch was not in dispute. But his captaincy was unproven, and now would be tested in the semi-finals by the hosts, England.
Well, these are the days where England were favourites to do a lot of things. In the context of that World Cup of '83, not necessarily favourites to win the competition, because West Indies, as ever, having won the previous 2, remained firm favourites to win it. But England had played good cricket through the competition. But as ever, it's the classic cliche, isn't it? You get to a semi-final, anything can happen. If you don't get it right on the day, that's it. Your dreams have faded to nothing.
Nobody thought in the media, nobody thought anywhere we can beat England in England. I think, again, we were in a hype at that time. Nobody could have stopped us.
The venue for the match would be Old Trafford, scene of India's opening day triumph over the West Indies. And the omens looked good.
When we saw the wicket, we were very positive. I think that really encouraged us because that reminded us it was more of an Indian wicket than an English wicket.
My memories of it wasn't a particularly good pitch. I think I was very inexperienced. It had no pace or no bounce in it. And as I said to you before, in them days, if England got beat, it was always the ground's fault.
We've heard that a few times in the comments too, not necessarily England, but just
England, though, started
different
the
match we've been watching.
in fine form.
That's a lovely shot. First boundary of the day. Beautifully timed shot there by Graham Fowler. Half volley on the leg stump. He put it away to perfection.
England's opening pair of Fowler and Chris Tavare wasted no time tearing into the Indian attack.
Crushing.
That's going to be 4 more.
The way England started, I thought probably they would score about 300 runs. And the first 15 overs, they're really smashing the bowlers all over the ground.
Getting that away through the gap on the offside. The outfield pretty quick. 4 runs, 50 up. A very promising start indeed for England.
Then, of course, Roger Binney, I think, was the man of the series right through the World Cup as a bowler because he always provided us wickets at the
That's
right
what you need.
time.
You need someone to stop it.
With his control ball.
Not all wickets are the same, my friends.
Anywhere, on any condition as such.
Well bowled, and he's out.
Give me the
that
thing.
was a good one. First success then for India. Roger Binney, Tavare gone for 32.
I found my first over itself, I hit the line straight away. And I found things very easy for me that time. I was very confident when I bowled.
It's a dangerous thing, an athlete that has confidence.
Oh, yeah. Woo!
Oh, thing of beauty.
Binney takes another wicket. And Fowler clean bowl for 33, leaving England now 84 for 2 in the 20.
Where's the ground mic at? Come on.
If you're a batsman, an international batsman against a medium pace bowler on an easy pitch, you should be the dominant power. And yet what happened was those bowlers, those same bowlers, all put it just on the right sort of length, just that sort of little nagging length, no pace coming onto the bat. And in essence, what happened was that every time we tried to force the pace, and this is what happened to me personally, every time we tried to force the pace, there was just a little bit of something there, didn't come onto the bat. A little nick in my case, off it goes, side Kamani takes the catch, and off I trudge. And that was pretty much the case throughout our top and middle order.
Slowly, the match was starting to turn India's way.
Getting, and Lam
Oh, run out.
That is a bad
semi-final?
out. That's a bad out.
And soon, Mike Gatting would follow Alan Lamb to the pavilion.
In the earlier games, I was bowling more of an outswinger, but I changed my style here. I thought instead of bowling outswinger, I was not very successful in the earlier games. So I thought, let me just bowl in-swingers or maybe incoming delivery more to the batsman because of the nature of the wicket.
Out comes the leg stump. And Gatting never looking comfortable. Crowd are going absolutely mad. What a fine spell.
Devastation.
The ball was keeping low. And if it's coming into the batsman, it's difficult to force.
But England needed to force the pace. With just 160 runs on the board, all hopes were once more pinned to Ian Botham, so often England's saviour.
That's gone.
Oh.
Well, that turn just fractionally got very low and Botham has gone.
I could be wrong, but I think Botham's the guy that they named the trophy after for West Indies and England.
Ball, I think, hit the stump about a foot high. And,
look at that
that's
thing
just
stay
dive.
down.
Oh, that's just die.
It was left to England's tail to build a total.
Wow.
And that's 4 runs. A thick edge this time.
But Graham Dilley's useful 20 was only postponing the inevitable.
Oh my gosh.
That's perfectly timed. The last ball of the day. Bob Willis's leg stump goes over. He's out for naught, dismissed at the end of 60 overs for a score of 213.
I think they knew, and I think we knew in our hearts, that 213 batting first on that pitch still wasn't enough, wasn't nearly enough.
Right.
We were confident, yeah, because at the same time, we always have something behind your mind. You think that we can't let it go from here. We were confident of getting that score.
And India's openers, Gavaskar and Krishnamachari Srikanth, started in the right spirit.
Looks all right. Don't think Gavaskar quite timed it. With enough pace in the shot for 4 more runs. Oh, my word, he's hit that right over the top of Willis at mid-off. 4 hands.
So hard to track the ball.
Yeah, it is.
That's the first really belligerent blow we've seen from this flashing stroke maker.
But neither was to last as long as they'd like.
Oh. And as soon as one says that, Gavaskar pushes out to Allen. That's gone high. Willis is underneath it. He doesn't drop.
That was perfect technique. Did you see how he ran, got under it, and didn't raise his hands until he's going to catch it?
Look how he stares. Stares at the Indian team as he's walking away.
India needed to pick up the pace.
Jeez.
I was betting with Yashpal Sharma, and we played a little bit slow, probably. I think that must have concerned the dressing room. I told Yash, okay, Yash, now one of us had to take a charge and to take some rest. So I suggested him, I said, you stay around, and I would go for the bowling. So straight away, I just started coming down the wicket, hitting the bowlers over the top. And what I see the next over, Yashpal, you doing the same thing, because he didn't want to stay behind in that particular moment.
It's a partnership.
You hear that? They don't want to stay behind.
Woo!
They want to keep pace with the run rate.
Hold that, cousin.
Jeez.
Given the signal.
There you
That's
go.
a great
Olay.
shot. A magnificent shot. Swung it over deep square leg for 6. That's a good shot too. Just as well as move that square leg back onto the boundary. Scurrying away for the second run, and he's gone.
Oh, no. Where's the DRS at?
Yeah, no DRS system.
Coming in from Paul Allen there.
Amarnath's run-out stopped him just short of his half-century. But at 142 for 3, his team were back on
I don't think
target.
you can DRS a run out.
And if the outcome was in any doubt, new batsman Sandip Patil soon dispelled it.
Oh, my word, he thumped that one. 4 down to the side screen. India are sailing home at the moment. Got that away on the leg side, 4 runs, square. India march past 200 to the joy of their supporters.
Patil would score 51 runs off just 32 balls. And although Sharma fell on 61 to a magnificent catch by Paul Allett, it was of little significance. India were already within 12 runs of the final.
Writing's on the wall, fellas.
And it was fitting that on this day, Patil should be the one to take them there.
He can hit it anywhere. That's it. 4 runs off the edge.
He started running the other way. That wasn't a walk-off, that was a run-off.
Wow.
Full credit to the bowlers on that day.
Never seen that.
Because they did exactly what was needed. Kept picking up wickets through our innings. They fielded well too. A couple of run-outs, I think, didn't help our cause. And so everything that happened in that first part of the game set it up.
Oh, boy. Whew. This was awesome. This was awesome, man. Great Patreon request. I got to tell you, sometimes sometimes part of the end is the journey. You know what I mean? How you get there. And again, it looked like India got stuck in a bracket of death, okay? And I know you don't really follow World Cup as much as I do, but in World Cup, every time it seems like America gets stuck in the bracket of death.
Yeah, they're always with Brazil. Always.
Oh, my God. Brazil, Germany. Good night. Good night. You're not getting out of there, all right? But if you do and you're able to beat them, it's like, who? I just made it out of here, bro. Because remember, they had West Indies there and Australia. So I feel like maybe that's where they got that confidence to say, you know what, we can take England. We just walked through the champs in West Indies, and we also got through Australia. Our bracket was way tougher, okay?
Let me tell you, man. Let me tell you, and you know this more than anyone as a Giants fan. One of my favorite seasons, and I'm a Chargers fan, is when the Giants beat the Patriots. The Patriots were 17-0, 18-0, something like that. They were going to go undefeated. And it was the last game. It was a Super Bowl. They were playing against the Giants. And everyone's like, oh, the Giants and Eli Manning, they have no chance. You know, they're going to choke again in the Super Bowl. But the Giants played the Patriots in the last week of the season, that season. And they lost. It was a great game, 38-35. I remember that game. They lost by 3. And Michael Strahan said in this great thing I used to watch, this documentary about that season, he's like, that let us know that we have a chance. Like, this is the best the NFL has of all time. They're saying this is the greatest team of all time. And we lost by 3 points? Are you kidding me? Give us a neutral ground and see what happens. And that's exactly what happened. And you even had Tom Brady, who never does this. We're only going to get 17 points? Okay, we'll see what happens. And then the Giants went in there, Eli Manning, David Tyree, and then the Plaxico burst. Game over, Giants win. But when India beat the West Indies in the West Indies, and they were able to beat them, I mean, they didn't win the series, but they were able to win that one match. That's all you need. We have a chance. We have been horrible in World Cup. We have a chance. We beat the best in their field. We can do this. And that's all it takes. That's all it takes.
You said it the best. You know, there's nothing more dangerous than a confident athlete, okay? And confidence goes a big way, okay? I don't care if you're professional or not. A lot of times that confidence, you know, will wean, and you lose it at times. It happens. And I don't know. When I was thinking about that the whole time, when I'm watching it, I just thought of Rocky 4, when finally he gets to Drago and he's like, he's cut. Like, I can't do this. I can do this. It's the same thing.
Chills.
You see, I'm saying the same thing right now. Like, that was the moment where, yeah, we might have lost the series, but we beat you, and we beat you at home. And now that lets India know we can bang with these guys. A lot of times it's just knowing that, hey, I belong. And once you say I belong, athletes are athletes, man. Bottom line. And India showed up that day. That's why we play the game, man. Bottom line. That's why we play the game.
You opened Pandora's box. You mentioned Rocky. You mentioned Rocky 4. There's a great speech by my guy, Duke Evers, who gives the get away from him line in an earlier Rocky film. After he cuts the Russian, he goes to Rocky, says, you see, he's not a machine. He's a man. I love that speech, because that is what you got to tell yourself sometimes. This is the unstoppable force. I cannot stop them, but I just cut him. We just beat him on their ground. We have a chance. I have enough in these bad boys to get there. And you, as a former boxer, you know more than anyone else. But I love that speech, because he's not a machine. He's a man. You have a chance. And then you get the opponent's side. You get to hear Drago talking to his trainer, and he's like, what are you doing, man? He's a small guy. Just beat him. He's like, no, he's like a piece of iron. I mean, you have no idea what the opponent's saying about you, but you're right. That confidence is all you need. Who cares about our past record? We have the squad right now. We just beat the best on their field. When we get to England and we haven't been able to beat them at Lord's, we're going to be on a different pitch. We have a chance. And it's, I mean, not to mention at the beginning of this documentary, it was setting up for the impact it had on the Indian culture and cricket. I mean, there's 1.3 billion people in India. I would venture to say probably 1 billion watch or play cricket. That's a huge percentage of the total population. You can't tell me this 83, we already know what happens. This 83 win does not propel to those kind of heights, to that kind of popularity, to where you said the IPL, which is just super popular, and it's only been around since 2008. Right. I mean, it's super cool. I love documentaries. It's super cool.
You know, something that when you were just talking about that, I remember as a kid, every kid's afraid, you know what I mean? Especially when you get into your first sparring match, your first boxing match. And I remember my dad and my trainer said, look over there, other side of the ring. Okay. And I'm looking at a kid, you know, the kid looks like he wants to tear my head off. I'm super shook. And my dad said, have you ever seen a man with another man in his mouth like a lion? He said it in Spanish, so it sounded a little different. So I'm just translating. I'm like, what? He said, have you ever seen a man with another man in his mouth like a lion? I was like, no, exactly. Okay, they're not beasts. They're not animals. They're men just like you. That's a boy just like you. He can do exactly what you can do, and that's throw the hands, all right? bottom line, you can do this inflict the same amount of pain and damage on him as he can you. And now at 40 years old, I must have heard this at 8 or 9, maybe 10 years old. But at 40, I still remember that, where it's like, you know what? He's a man just like me. I'll step in the ring with what, people always say jokes. Would you step in the ring with Mike Tyson for $1 million? Yeah. You know what? I'll step in the ring with Mike Tyson for $1 million because he's a man just like me. We're going to bang. People never thought that Mike Tyson would fall, and he fell to Buster Douglas. All right. That's why you show up. And I think in sports, I've only seen it a few times, but I hate when you see teams quit. And you know that we've seen it in time. You never quit. I hate when teams show up and it's like they're not ready to play, like they're already defeated. You can't do that. You show up ready to play. I don't care what your record says. I don't care what my record says. On this day, we're going to go out there and compete and let the chips fall where they may, man. Let the chips fall where they may. But this was an amazing documentary. I'm with you. I love documentaries. I love learning about history. And man, chills, absolute chills watching this thing.
Last thing I want to say, talking about sports, talking about two things actually, real quick. One thing, as a Padres and a Chargers fan, it's been documented. They have not won any championships, but that's why I keep coming back day after day, game after game, because I have that belief, that naive belief that this could be our year. This could be our season. This can be our game. We can get it done. I have that naive. I mean, it kills me every single time when it doesn't happen, but I have that belief every time, and it makes it more exciting. The other point is I love the movie Miracle. That talks about Miracle on Ice, 1980 U.S. hockey team against the Soviets. And there's a speech that Herb Brooks gives, the coach of the American squad, and I'm pretty sure it's word for word what the actual speech was. But he has this line where he says, if we play these guys 10 out of 10 times, we'd probably lose 9, but not tonight. This is going to be our 1 out of 10. We'll play them 9 more times. They're going to beat us, but not tonight. And I just love the way he said, Kurt Russell delivers it great. On YouTube, there's a 4-year-old. You got to watch this video. He does that speech word for word with the suit on. Super cute, super awesome delivery. But I love that speech. Not tonight.
And you know what, man? I think you ended you ended this session with a perfect quote. That's what it is, man. Just go out there and compete, because it could be anybody's game, and you just got to have that belief. Like, yeah, you may be better than us, and you guys might have had all these, we're in England, we're at Old Terra, and you guys are a powerhouse. But today, we showed up, and we're the better team. And man, that was amazing. That was amazing.
And until next time.
That's 6 runs.